respect everyone, fear no one, right? You have earned the right to be in the position that we're in, one game away from the playoffs. You've earned that. We are not going to have to rely on anybody else, right? We take care of our right now. Own it. Every single possession. Everyone. It all matters.
Boston destroys Mystics. And this wasn't just a win, it was a message.
I feel like for me, it's just my approach. It's just coming in and just trying to be dominant in anything the team needs. And so if that gives off spicy, which I really don't think it does. I feel like I'm like kind of quiet. Spice? No, I just know it's spicy. But yeah, I feel like that's just been my mindset, is just coming in and just being the player that I need to be for us.
The Indiana Fever's 94-65 demolition of the Washington Mystics secured their spot in the playoffs. But here's the twist. Caitlin Clark wasn't on the floor. Neither were four other key contributors. Yet somehow, Aaliyah Boston didn't just dominate with her game, she dropped a line after the buzzer that had teammates buzzing and fans demanding to know more.
The Fever are officially in the playoffs right now. After a crazy season where, look, I think at the end of the day, not getting a lottery pick is not going to be good. But you know what? I can't be too negative. This team fought.
How did a team gutted by injuries turn heartbreak into a playoff-clinching blowout? And why are Boston's words now being called the rallying cry for this franchise? Stick around, because this is about more than just basketball. The Fever's season was supposed to belong to Caitlin Clark. Averaging over 16 points and electrifying crowds, she had fans believing the postseason wasn't just possible, it was expected. But disaster struck just 13 games in. A torn groin ended her season.
New this morning, ESPN is reporting that Caitlin Clark has injured her groin for the second time this season. Clark left last night's game in the final minute, holding back tears after grabbing at her leg. She just returned back to WNBA action after missing 9 games for 2 other leg injuries. Despite the apparent injury, Clark racked up 14 points and made 4 of 14 shots, helping the Fever take the 85-77 win over the Connecticut Sun.
That single injury would have sunk most teams. For Indiana, it was only the beginning. Sophie Cunningham, gone. Chloe Beebe, gone. Sydney Colson, out. Ari McDonald, out. In total, 5 players, nearly half the rotation, vanished from the lineup. By mid-season, 18 different players had suited up in a Fever jersey. That's not a team, that's a revolving door. Analysts lined up to declare Indiana finished. Playoffs? Forget it. The season was supposed to be over, but instead of folding, the Fever found a new identity. Survival turned into belief. That belief exploded on the road against Washington. The first half was tight. The Mystics came out strong, trading buckets, forcing Indiana into tough looks. Tension built in the arena. With so many stars gone, fans wondered if this would be the night everything slipped away. But then came the third quarter, and the game flipped on its head. The Fever locked down defensively in a way that felt suffocating. The Mystics scored just 9 points in the entire quarter. 9. Every passing lane closed. Every drive met a wall. Indiana's defense didn't just hold, it smothered. From there, the Fever's offense roared to life. The lead ballooned past 20, past 25, all the way to a 33-point margin. Washington wasn't just beaten, they were buried. The box score told part of the story. Natasha Howard led with 17 points, punishing the Mystics inside.
Lobs it, right post, Howard, and one off the backboard. And Howard flexes.
Aaliyah Boston delivered yet another double-double. 12 points, 11 rebounds, controlling the paint on both ends.
And backing down area fence, spins, right-handed baby hook, bow, bow, bow.
Aerial Powers exploded off the bench for 15 points, becoming the spark plug that refused to let the energy dip.
With a double-double, feeds left wing, it's pure for Powers, tongue out with the silly.
Shea Petty, perfect, 3 for 3 from deep.
Petty, corner 3, it's good, in front of the Fever bench.
Lexi Hull dove across the floor for loose balls, turning defense into transition. 5 Fever players hit double figures. That's balance. That's survival turned into dominance. And here's the stat that broke Washington: turnovers. The Mystics coughed it up 22 times, leading to 27 Fever points. Indiana gave it away only 6 times. That's not just winning basketball, that's total control. But the real story wasn't just in the numbers. It was in the voice of Aaliyah Boston. After the game, she told her teammates, "Never doubt yourself and what you're capable of."
Did you guys feel like this was always possible to make the playoffs? Did you ever have moments of concern or doubt? And what allowed you guys to just keep, the eyes on the prize more or less? Yeah, I think, just being someone in this locker room, you never doubt yourself and what you're capable of, no matter what happens. I think the entire staff, up to the head, just made great decisions when people went down on who to bring in, the type of people to bring in. And that was really our mindset. We never doubted ourselves. We never doubted that we could be in the playoffs. Even if things looked like it got harder, for us, it was about sticking together. And I think through everything, you're able to see that, us play with joy, us play together, regardless of who's on that floor.
Those words hit harder than any rebound. Fans echoed it on social media. Teammates repeated it in the locker room. It wasn't just a mantra, it became their identity. Picture that post-game scene. Sweat-drenched players laughing, emotional, celebrating the franchise's first playoff berth since 2016. TikToks were made, smiles were everywhere. But Boston? She made sure the celebration didn't erase the mission. She reminded everyone the job wasn't done. Next game Tuesday, playoffs ahead, fun mixed with focus, the perfect balance of joy and leadership.
How would you describe the locker room after the game today, just being able to celebrate? Well, we didn't make a TikTok, so I think everyone is just super excited. Like you said, it hasn't been a perfect road. And so for us, it's enjoying the little moments while at the same time understanding we have another game on Tuesday and then we have to prepare for the playoffs. But I think just being in the moment and being where our feet are and kind of just enjoying this one.
That's why fans are calling her the anchor. If Caitlin Clark is the spark that grabs headlines, Boston is the foundation holding this house together. And on this night, that foundation destroyed the Mystics. Here's the climax. What looked like the Fever's downfall might actually have been their greatest blessing. Without Clark, Cunningham, McDonald, Colson, and Beebe, the team had no choice but to grow. Depth was forced. Leadership was discovered. Grit became identity. Boston's double-doubles kept stacking, 17 this year alone, breaking the franchise record. She now owns 41 in just 2 seasons. But more important than numbers, she gave her teammates a belief system. Never doubt. Play with joy. Stick together. And that belief turned heartbreak into a 29-point demolition. Now, the Fever head into the playoffs as the 7 seed, guaranteed their first home playoff game in nearly a decade. The matchups are brutal: Atlanta, Las Vegas, or Phoenix. All 3 are dangerous. But Indiana has already taken games from them this season, with this same short-handed roster. Suddenly, nobody wants to face the Fever. Because here's the big question. If this team can do this with half a roster, what happens when they're whole again? Aaliyah Boston didn't just dominate the Mystics. She destroyed the narrative that the Fever couldn't survive without Caitlin Clark. Her words became the rallying cry of a team built on resilience. And now, the WNBA has a problem. Because Indiana isn't just in the playoffs, they're coming with a chip on their shoulder. If you're fired up for this playoff run, drop Fever Playoffs in the comments right now. Smash that like button, subscribe for more WNBA breakdowns, and turn on all notifications so you never miss the drama. The Fever aren't done. They're just getting started.
Last night, Caitlin Clark announced she will miss the remainder of the W season. Clark hasn't played since July 15th, dealing with a groin injury. SA, your reaction to Caitlin being shut down?
Let's find out what the rest of the WNBA is going to do in terms of popularity. You've been saying up and down that, whether tacitly or directly, that, she's getting too much shine, even though we respect and what have you. We deserve our shine. Well, now's a perfect opportunity for you to prove that.
Just 72 hours after Caitlin Clark announced her shocking exit, the WNBA has collapsed into chaos.
breaking news, hot off the press. Now, we knew it was going down earlier, bro. Caitlin Clark has just confirmed she is out for the season. Now, where do we go from here? That is where we got to pick up the pieces, bro. She just went online and stated these things. Now, I dropped a video earlier today, kind of detailing everything, going over everything, and letting you guys know that I feel like the front office was doing a bunch of BS with us and not telling us exactly what was going down with Cece. I talked about it earlier. Scott Atkins is going to drop a video pretty much confirming she wasn't coming back.
Viewership is plummeting, ESPN is scrambling, and Stephen A. Smith just went off on live television, blasting Commissioner Kathy Engelbert in front of millions. Fans are furious, players are divided, and the league is staring at its biggest disaster in history.
Then are you willing to admit how stupid it was for y'all not to go all in to elevate Caitlin Clark? And y'all could have reaped the benefits? Higher television ratings, higher attendance figures. Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't come courtesy of a league. It comes courtesy of the players that play in the league. And in her case, she was the most popular, which means she could have helped your bottom line, which means you should have seen that from day one and maximized it. But you didn't do it. You didn't want to, rather. You were a bit hesitant and reluctant and resistant to it. So much so you didn't push for her to be on Team USA. So much so you had people like Cheryl Swoops who didn't even want to mention her name.
But the question everyone is asking is simple. How did the WNBA let its biggest star slip away and create the worst crisis women's basketball has ever seen? Stay tuned, because this story isn't just about Caitlin Clark. It's about the survival of women's sports itself. The numbers don't lie. The moment Caitlin Clark walked away, the league crumbled. Games that were pulling in record-breaking viewership just weeks ago are now tanking to all-time lows. ESPN executives are in full panic mode. Advertisers who lined up to cash in on Clark's rising star are suddenly calling emergency meetings, demanding answers. And it's not just about ratings, it's about trust.
I'm not going to be out there like RG3 was saying that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark or other players hate Caitlin Clark. But I will say this. I don't think it's specific about Caitlin Clark. I think it's what Caitlin Clark represents. See, it's through no fault of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark balled. She balled at Iowa in college. She's balled since she's been in the NBA. She came into the league last year with no break whatsoever between the college game and the pro game and did her thing. Ended up as an all-star, ended up being fourth in the league in MVP voting, was the clear winner for Rookie of the Year. No competition whatsoever in that regard when it was really all said and done. We know what she brings to the table.
Fans who tuned in night after night for Caitlin Clark now feel betrayed. Like the league never valued the one player who made them care in the first place. Online, the message is loud and clear. If Caitlin Clark isn't in the WNBA, neither are we. On ESPN, Stephen A. Smith put words to the outrage fans were already screaming. He didn't hold back. He demanded answers. He called it a failure of leadership and put Commissioner Engelbert directly in the hot seat. How? He asked. Can you take the biggest star in WNBA history, the one person who carried this league to new heights, and treat her like she's disposable?
But people wanted to hate because why? You had a bunch of players in this league that watched this young white girl come along and take the league by storm, and they resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had. They ignored the fact that you got chartered flights because of this girl. They ignored the fact that ratings were going through the roof because of this girl. Instead, they resented it because they said, yo, we were doing stuff long before Caitlin Clark got here, and y'all wasn't paying attention then. But now, the young white girl comes along, and y'all want to sit up there and shower all of this praise and all of this attention that was earned before she ever came along.
Smith wasn't just defending Caitlin Clark. He was exposing the WNBA's biggest mistake, failing to protect the one player who single-handedly brought the league into the mainstream spotlight. This collapse didn't come out of nowhere. It was years in the making. And Stephen A. Smith spelled it out. The league had no plan, no protection for Clark on the court, where she was targeted, shoved, and bullied.
The golden child in her second year in the league,
who was top 4 in MVP voting last year, the assist leader last year, a galvanizing talent that has done wonders for the NBA. If she is seen to be physically getting abused on a basketball court in a way that is such a clear and flagrant discrepancy compared to what happens to others, that man is not going to say something?
No long-term marketing strategy, even as her games smashed ratings records. No vision for the future, despite seeing millions of new fans tuning in just to watch her play. Instead of embracing Clark's star power, the WNBA leaned into politics, jealousy, and silence. Veterans resented the attention she was getting. Coaches kept quiet while opponents went after her physically. And Engelbert? She stood by and watched as the golden ticket to women's sports slipped right through her fingers. Stephen A. didn't sugarcoat it. He said this wasn't just a WNBA problem, it was a women's sports disaster.
They still had over 2 million views, but they had over 3 million last year. It dropped because she wasn't playing. Now, I told y'all, Candace Parker tried to tell y'all, Rebecca Lobo is trying to tell y'all, the goose that lays the golden eggs, the tide that lifts all boats. Do you know what Gino Auriemma said? He said she's being targeted. I don't remember when Michael Jordan came into the league, guys looking to go out and beat him up.
Caitlin Clark was more than just a rookie. She was a bridge to a whole new generation of fans. Little girls holding up signs in the stands, families watching games together for the first time, ESPN giving the league primetime slots after decades in the shadows. And yet, the WNBA let resentment and egos get in the way. They had the future in their hands, and they tore it up. The backlash has been explosive. Online, fans are vowing to boycott. No Clark, no WNBA has become the rallying cry. Parents who watched games with their daughters are walking away. New viewers who gave the league a chance because of Clark are done. And behind the scenes, ESPN executives are furious. They invested millions into promoting Clark, banking on her to carry the sport into a new era. Sponsors lined up to be part of the momentum. Now, the momentum is gone. Ratings are collapsing. Advertisers are panicking. But perhaps the biggest betrayal is emotional. Caitlin Clark wasn't just an athlete, she was a symbol. She gave young girls hope, inspired families, and made people believe women's basketball could be something bigger. And instead of protecting her, the WNBA exposed her to hostility and disrespect. Stephen A. captured that anger perfectly. He said, "This is a failure of leadership, a disaster from the top down." And he's right. Fans aren't just angry at the league. They feel robbed of the future Clark represented. The truth is undeniable. Caitlin Clark didn't just boost the WNBA, she saved it. She was the heartbeat of the league, the one player who could pack arenas and put women's basketball at the center of national conversation. And now, just days after her exit, the cracks are everywhere. Stephen A. Smith took the gloves off. He said Commissioner Kathy Engelbert failed her. He said the league betrayed the very player who carried it to relevance. And he demanded accountability. Should Engelbert resign? Should the WNBA overhaul its leadership? His answer was clear. This was a leadership disaster, and it started at the top. But the most chilling part of Stephen A.'s rant wasn't about the commissioner. It was about the future. "This isn't just a WNBA disaster," he said. "This is a women's sports disaster." When Caitlin Clark walks away, little girls lose their role model, families lose the bond of watching games together, and women's basketball loses its greatest opportunity in history. So here we are. The WNBA had a golden ticket in its hands, and it tore it up. Instead of building around Clark, it chose silence, jealousy, and politics. Now the fans are gone, the sponsors are nervous, and ESPN is panicking. The league is calling this a wake-up call, but let's be real. The damage is done, the trust is broken, and unless the WNBA finds a way to rebuild, fast, it may never recover. Because this story isn't just about basketball, it's about respect, about how one player carried a league only to be left unprotected and betrayed, and now the whole world is watching the fallout. So what happens next? Can the WNBA survive without Caitlin Clark? Or is this the beginning of the end? Stephen A. Smith made his position clear. Leadership failed, and the league may not recover. But what do you think? Should Cathy Engelbert resign? Should ESPN pull back its support? Or is it already too late? If you believe Caitlin Clark deserves better, hit that like button, subscribe, and join this community, because we're not staying silent. And if you're still watching, drop "Clark deserved better" in the comments to let the world know you stand with her.
Not surprising at this point, but still incredibly disappointing. Caitlin Clark officially done for the 2025 WNBA season, as she and the Fever announced on social media. The Fever and Clark saying that she tried to get back on the floor. It appears that she just ran out of time, not able to get enough confidence back in her body as the season wraps up and the playoffs are likely about to begin for Indiana.
Welp, she's out.
Caitlin Clark just confirmed the news no one wanted to hear. Her season is officially over. The WNBA's brightest star, the player who single-handedly carried ratings, ticket sales, and fan excitement, won't step on the court again this year. And the fallout is already massive.
So it's official. The most heartbreaking news for Indiana Fever fans that could come of the season, but Caitlin Clark will not be returning to the 2025 WNBA season. She took the liberty of posting it herself because there were many people asking to hear from Caitlin Clark, to hear how she felt about the entire situation, because a lot of people felt like it was the front office that was kind of making all of these decisions, but she did end up taking to Twitter and posting this.
Fans are outraged, demanding refunds, calling for boycotts, and putting the league's entire playoff run in jeopardy. But how did it get to this point? How did the WNBA allow its most valuable player to break down after just 13 games? And why are fans blaming the league's negligence more than the injury itself?
Now, this was a quad strain, right? But she's had plenty of injuries this season. They've all been soft tissue injuries. They've hopped from one leg to another. Then she had the bone bruise. A lot of the reporting around this was saying that none of these injuries were related. A lot of the reporting around this also alluded to the fact that it wasn't because of the physicality on the court. There's just, other things going on. There's really no blame was ever placed anywhere for these injuries. No blame was ever placed anywhere. It's basically just a series of unfortunate events.
Clark's injuries didn't happen overnight. It started with a quad strain in May, then a nagging groin issue in June, and by July, it had turned into a full tear. Add in a bone bruise during recovery, and her body simply couldn't take it anymore.
This is on your head, Cathy Engelbert and the rest of the WNBA Players Association executive leadership who failed to hold officials and players accountable for the barbaric style of play the Fever and Caitlin Clark have had to endure this year. Cathy, resign.
But here's the real controversy. These weren't freak accidents. They were the result of constant targeting on the court, with opponents shoving her into screens, grabbing her jersey, and double-teaming her before she even touched the ball. Fans saw it play out possession after possession, and the refs, they swallowed their whistles. It became so obvious that even the Washington Post wrote about the pattern. Clark was the face of the league, but instead of protecting her, officials looked the other way. After weeks of being listed day to day, Clark finally released her statement.
I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. I want to thank everyone who had my back through all the uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. The way the fans continue to show up for me, and for the Fever, brought me so much joy and important perspective. I am so proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through adversity this year. Now it's time to close out the season and claim our spot in the playoffs.
I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I'm feeling. The backlash was immediate. Ticket prices for All-Star Weekend in Indiana, which had been selling for over $200, dropped to under $60 overnight. Fans flooded resale sites, dumping tickets they bought months in advance. Sponsorships tied to Clark lost their shine, and TV ratings began collapsing without her on the floor.
The WNBA is in some serious trouble after major networks look like they're pulling the plug on the league. Well, I'm here to tell you, it looked like the WNBA saga, the little run that they had, is now over, as major networks could be pulling segments from the broadcast, and this current CBA agreement is heating up. This is all what the owners wanted. Now, I am here to tell you, man, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it looked very conspiring to me that the WNBA, pretty much the league as a whole, and all teams might have cohorted together to get rid of Caitlin Clark. Now, we know these WNBA players is trying their damnness to get these big-time paydays.
Even worse, fans realized they'd been strung along. The precautionary injury updates made it sound like she was close to returning, but behind the scenes, her body wasn't responding at all. Supporters felt betrayed, used for every last dollar before the truth came out.
She's been sitting out that long, man. That's how long we've been waiting for Caitlin Clark to come back. And I don't know why they've been lying and trying to act like she's coming back. They're dropping these videos of her practicing, talking about day to day. I'm like, fam, the injury does not look good. The injury does not look good. Why are y'all even playing? Why are y'all saying day to day when it looks like an end of the season? Why? Why even? And then you kind of have to think about it, man. This validates some of the speculations that people were saying they're dangling Caitlin Clark in front of them just for some money.
Commissioner Kathy Engelbert had a chance to step up, admit mistakes, and promise change. Instead, her statement read like a PR script. Vague optimism, talk about league growth, but no accountability for the refereeing failures that left Clark unprotected. That disconnect lit the fire even higher. Longtime fans called her comments a betrayal.
CC's out for 2 weeks. Now's a good time to boycott the WNBA. Look, there's another one right there. There's the foul that wasn't called on Natasha Cloud. Boycott the WNBA. A lot of people are saying this is the time. That this is the time. They're not going to tune in while she's out.
Hashtags like hashtag boycott WNBA spread across social media with proof of canceled tickets and refund demands. Analysts joined in too. Colin Cowherd admitted he stopped covering the WNBA once Clark was sidelined, saying flat out, "She's the reason anyone was tuning in."
There's a unit or a portion of the media that is very pro-WNBA to a fault. And then there's those of us that are realistic. How many times have you watched WNBA games since Caitlin Clark got hurt? Now think about this. It led our show last summer.
A bunch.
Oh, I think I led with it 6 times. I led with the WNBA. And either way, I talk about what I think is interesting. You notice I didn't talk about it this year? It's not because I suddenly disliked the league. I thought it was growing. Anybody that wants to argue this, you're off your rocker. Caitlin Clark is the league. I don't know what the ratings are. I haven't read them, but I know last year with Caitlin Clark, I would, if the game was on, I would drive home making a point. And when's that game on?
I would watch it on my phone in the car. So you could listen, not watch, I'm driving, but you could listen to it in the car. And that's just not happening.
It became clear this wasn't just an injury. It was the collapse of the WNBA's business model. Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury has become a symbol of everything wrong with the league. The WNBA wanted record profits, packed arenas, and new sponsorships. But when it came time to protect the very player responsible for that growth, they failed. Fans see Engelbert and league leadership as prioritizing money over health. And now, the boycott threatens to gut playoff attendance and slash TV ratings at the very moment the WNBA wanted to showcase growth. Even in her frustration, Clark showed class in her message, thanking fans, praising her Fever teammates for battling through adversity, and promising she'll return stronger in 2026. Players like Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, and Lexi Hull are still competing, but there's no denying the season has lost its biggest draw. The bigger question remains: can the WNBA survive without protecting its stars? Because if fans lose trust now, the league risks undoing all the momentum Clark brought with her. Caitlin Clark's injury isn't just a personal setback, it's the result of league negligence, officials refusing to protect her, leadership refusing to hold anyone accountable, and fans being strung along for months. Now the WNBA is paying the price, with boycotts and empty seats looming over the playoffs. So what do you think? Is the WNBA to blame for Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're still watching, comment Clark Strong to show your support.